Last January, the political calculus of the state Senate got even more complicated when a group of 4 Democrats broke away from the minority and they formed their own caucus. Senators Jeff Klein, Diane Savino, Dave Valesky, and David Carlucci became the Independent Democratic Conference. Over the past year, they have voted with Republicans on some key issues, like taking away the lieutenant governor's tie-breaking powers. However, they've also pushed their very own legislative agenda, and for 2012, they have a whole new set of goals that they are working on. So we are with them now, all 4 members of the IDC. I want to welcome you, Senator Savino, Senator Carlucci, Senator Klein, Senator Valesky. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So, okay, let's start actually. You do have your own agenda. You put it out about a week ago, right? And I want to start with the top one, which is bullying. Senator Klein, you and I have spoken about this before. It's actually moving. You have your first GOP co-sponsor. It's Senator Santi, although technically he used to be a Democrat, but whatever. He's on. So where is this going in terms of momentum?
Well, this is going to be a very important issue because unfortunately, Liz, as you see, we're losing our young people each and every day. You know, when I was a kid, you had the schoolyard bully. It was a visible enemy, so to speak. You had a fight, you made up, that was the end of it. Now you have sort of these hordes of invisible bullies that are using the internet, using other types of social media as weapons. And I think it becomes much worse, and I think we really need to, once and for all, make cyberbullying a crime in New York State.
Senator Savino, you had a tragedy in your district on Staten Island.
Yes.
Do you think that, and then we had in Western New York, which probably spurred Senator Santi to come on as well, that this is going to finally push us to see the momentum to push this issue into law?
Well, the recent tragedy in Staten Island, Amanda Cummings, you know, she's got the family's gotten a lot of attention as a result of the young girl feeling so pressured and so taunted and so bullied that she took her own life. It's a terrible tragedy, and we don't ever want to see that happen again. But what we're hoping to do with Senator Klein's legislation and some other curriculum that we hope the schools will adopt and parents will adopt is get young people to change their behavior as well. We want people to recognize that there are consequences for their behavior, and that if you're going to engage in bullying and taunting one of your fellow students, that you could potentially force them to do something that is permanent. You know, suicide cannot come, you know, you can't come back from suicide. So we're trying to do a couple of things. One, change the law to recognize that this type of behavior should be a crime. It isn't right now, but it will be. And 2, to get young people to change their behavior.
Yeah, I do want to add, we also kicked off the first ever New York cyberbullying census.
Yeah.
You know, Liz, there's no statistics on cyberbullying in New York State. So I want to engage young people. This is an anonymous survey. We want them to tell us, you know, how serious this problem is, and really sort of get their input on helping to craft a law.
This is actually probably the highest profile of the agenda, but there's this other one here that I find interesting, a farm brewery license. Whose initiative is that? That'd be you. Oh, all right. Please explain.
We all do like beer, though.
Yeah, yes, well, you know, who doesn't like a good, well, you know, yeah, a good home brew is nice, but talk to us about that.
You remember the farm winery license issue?
I do.
And certainly in the Finger Lakes and Long Island and North Country in terms of the growth of the wine industry in the state. We hope to do the same thing with the beer industry. One of my counties that I represent is Madison County, a long history in hops production years ago. And this is a way we think...
Really?
Sure,
Okay.
Absolutely. Farm breweries are a way to help primarily small businesses, and which is really the engine of our economy. So we're going to pattern this bill after the farm winery license and think that there's economic benefits, tourism benefits,
So you turn a farm
benefits.
into a brewery, essentially, or have them have the ability to do that sort of ancillarily to growing.
That's correct.
Wasn't Senator Schumer around pushing something to do with local breweries too?
He is looking at that, yes, he is, at the federal level as well.
He is, okay. So Senator Carlucci?
Right, and this speaks to our idea. This is agriculture, but also one of our main points is regulatory reform.
Right.
And how do we make sure that New York is open and ready for business? When you talk to small business owners around this state, they say the same thing, that it's tough doing business because of one regulation after the other after the other. And we're really proud of Governor Cuomo in his State of the State talking about using the synergy of government, working together, and trying to cut through the red tape. And we've pointed out ways that we think we can do that by making just the doing business in New York easier, and not cutting out regulations that are life-threatening, but making sure that we have agencies working to bring businesses into compliance with them working together and not against each other.
You know what's interesting about you guys is despite the fact that your conference or your caucus is small, you actually, because of the divide in the Senate, which is 32-30 Democrats minus 4 of you, have the ability to push the agenda forward. And so these issues and your agenda whatever it may be, regulatory reform, a farm beer brewery license, bullying, really has a good shot at getting somewhere, which is unusual because
Well,
most of your
it's
fellow
the-
Democrats
right.
can't say
It's
that.
the reason we formed the IDC.
Right.
I mean, we got tired of the partisan bickering. We got tired of not working together as Democrats and Republicans to do the people's business. And it really was moving a democratic agenda, moving a progressive agenda in a
Yeah,
bipartisan
but
fashion.
your fellow Democrats would say that you haven't been. I mean, and you've heard this all before, that you vote too much with the majority, that you're getting too much support from the majority, and if it comes down to the point where it's again closely divided, and I'll say even with redistricting, I'll put myself out there, I think it's going to be closely divided again. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree.
I agree for the next
Probably
10
will be
for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
So probably you'll be in king-making positions. You could go back to the Democratic fold, or you could stay with the Republicans and put Dean Skelos
But I think,
in
Liz,
power.
the important thing is that we govern. I mean, the dust settled on the last election a year ago. We're approaching a new election cycle. The voters in our respective districts expect us to govern, and they expect to do it in a bipartisan fashion. I think Washington should really take a page out of the fine work
This
that the
issue-
IDC
Yes,
has
Governor
done.
Cuomo thinks so too, I
This
think.
issue of the legislative agenda, just look at last year's session. 68, 69 bills passed by 4 non-majority members of the state Senate. Some 33 were signed into law by Governor Cuomo. That's progress. That's working for the people. That's good government. And that's why we began this.
And I think one of the big differences, we're constantly talking about a legislative agenda. You know, issues that we want to focus on, issues that we want to push and that we want to see signed into law. Other people are talking about politics, so they use the terminology kingmaker or selection of the leader. They're not interested in leading. They only want to be leader.
I understand, but at some point the rubber hits the road. It is politics. It is a campaign year. And let me just ask you this,
And that's
because
fine.
it
But
is
good
right now in the
government
news.
is good politics.
I think that I've heard that before. Let me ask you this, and anyone could answer this question. I'll put it on the table. A 63rd Senate seat. The Democrats, your fellow Democrats, are opposed. The Republicans obviously think that they're in the right. One of your colleagues, Liz Kruger, this morning in a radio interview called it Enron-style accounting to get the math to make 63 seats. What is your feeling on that?
Listen, that's a fight that those two groups are going to have amongst each other. It'll probably wind up in court. I think the Constitution is clear. We can't go backwards. We can go forward. We can add a seat. We can't subtract a seat. The only thing I would hope is that at the end of this process, we don't have another even-bodied Senate, so that we don't have the potential of, you know, gridlock and deadlock. We've been down that road. So whatever the two warring factions decide to come up with, I hope it's an odd number.
We remember what the tie brought us last time.
Right.
You know, the
Yeah.
rule of, you know, Pedro Espada, you know, where we spent most of our time looking for 24-hour dry cleaning stores in Albany. So I think, you know, it's anything that'll get us past the hyperpartisanship and the bickering and allow us to govern, I think is a good
And I
thing.
think that's
line.
made us successful, is to try to stay away from the politics as
Right.
much as possible, because since the minute I got here to Albany, all people want to talk about are the politics and not talk about the real legislation that'll impact the people we serve.
Let me just, we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you one question, though. Is it not hyper-partisan to threaten to primary some of your fellow Democrats?
We never said we
Never
were.
said that.
Well, to grow your own majority, to your own
That-
conference. Do you not want to grow your
that
own
means
conference?
a lot of different things. That
So you
means-
might run against Republicans then?
Again, I mean, when the election comes about, and that's going to be pretty soon, we'll
What
be
is that
making
gonna be?
decisions. First and foremost, Liz, we established our independent Democratic initiative to really protect ourselves.
Right.
When a small group of the Senate Dems threatened that we're going to primary us. So a lot of it is very defensive. And we'll see when the election season rolls around how much offense we
Okay,
want to play.
well, unfortunately, we're out of time. When it is that you're ready to engage in politics, I hope you all come back and tell me so we
Be
can talk
happy to
about
visit.
politics.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you,
Always love
Senator
talking
Valesky.
about
Oh, thank
politics.
you. Thanks, guys. No, really, thanks very much.